What is happiness? Let us know that first. Happiness is a feeling of well-being. And that feeling of well-being comes usually through the fulfillment of a desire. A child is unhappy because the child wants to eat a candy. Then the child is given a candy by its mother, and then the child is happy because the child wanted to have a candy, that desire has been fulfilled. And this fulfillment of desire, from that comes happiness, which is a state of well-being of the mind. Happiness, unfortunately, does not last forever. The same child who was happy because it had got a candy will not be happy forever, because the child will go on wanting other things. And if those wants are fulfilled, then the child will be happy. So happiness doesn't last forever. There is a story. A man was poor and he wanted to be a multi-millionaire. Then he sent a petition to God. God, give me many $1 million. That's what he wrote. Then I will be happy, he wrote. And God returned the petition with the remark, prayer granted. And the man was very happy. He took that petition and put that in his safe deposit locker. And he started getting money. After a while, he became a multi-millionaire. But along with his multi-million dollars, one might expect that he should be very happy, the happiest person. But no, he was not happy. When he got the money, he was happy, but then his happiness was not lasting forever. Thinking of all the properties that he had gained, he gradually started getting worries, and he developed ulcer in his stomach, his blood pressure went up, all these physical problems he started having. And worst of all, one day his wife came to him and wanted a divorce, saying that you are always thinking of your money, you don't care for me. Then that man really became upset, and he said to God, God, I wanted to be a multimillionaire, to be happy. And you granted that prayer. But why am I being unhappy now? Then God said to him, read the fine print, what I wrote on your petition. He went and brought out his petition from the safe deposit locker. Then in fine print it was written by God, you will be a multi-millionaire, but along with that you will have all these problems. You will have stomach ulcer, you will have high blood pressure, you will have family troubles. God wrote those things in fine print. That means happiness does not last forever. Now let me try to answer another question. Is happiness subjective or objective? Some philosophers want to know that. Whether happiness is subjective or objective. So one young man married a very beautiful girl and he was very happy, and they went out during their honeymoon. After marriage, they went out on a trip. Then they drove for many miles, and then suddenly the car developed problem, and they had to stop in a town so that the car could be repaired. And they went to the 5-star hotel, and they were given the honeymoon suite of that room which is in that hotel. They were in that room, they were very happy, and they looked out. There were windows there, looked out, and they could see a scenery. And that scenery gladdened their heart more. They thought it was so beautiful and all that. Then after their stay in that hotel for 2 or 3 days, they very happily stayed there. They returned home. But unfortunately, after 1 year, the wife of this person, young man, left him and married another man. She was very depressed. Anyway, but he kept on working. One day when he went out for his work to a certain town, then suddenly his car developed trouble. The engine broke down. So he had to go and stay in a hotel. It was the same town where they stayed in a hotel during their honeymoon. It is the same town. And he went to that hotel. All the rooms had been occupied, and only that honeymoon suite was available. So that young man went to that honeymoon suite. The windows were there, and he looked out. He saw the same scenery which once gladdened his heart nearly a year ago. That sight made him happy. But now, that sight is not making him happy. He is feeling miserable. So it proves that happiness is not objective. Otherwise, the same scenery, had it had the power to make people happy, then he would be always happy. It is his mind which is sometimes feels happy, sometimes not happy. Now let me discuss some techniques which may help us to be happy. Let me go backward in time. Hinduism is a very ancient religion, more ancient than any other religion you know about, several thousand years old. And in that religion there are many books which teach spiritual truths and also moral. Those books give moral teaching also. There are two great epics in Hinduism, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Ramayana is the life story of Lord Rama, who was considered a divine incarnation, and Mahabharata. It is also a book which talks mostly about Sri Krishna, a divine incarnation. And it gives many, many moral teachings. So in that Mahabharata, that epic Mahabharata, there are many stories. One of them is that a prince named Yudhishthira with his 4 other brothers went to a certain lake for some reason, and there they met a celestial being which in Sanskrit is called Yaksha. And the Yaksha went on asking questions. Those who could not answer the questions, they were there. They could not drink water. But when Yudhishthira's turn came, he was very wise and he started giving answers to those questions made by Yaksha. Then Yaksha, among others, asked Yudhishthira this question: who is happy? Tell me. And Yudhishthira said, one who does not have any debts and one who does not live in a foreign country, that one is happy. Arini and Apravasi. Many of you are living in America and perhaps you are born in India or other countries. Are you unhappy? No. But there was a time when the world had many, many little kingdoms. Democracy was unknown. Republics were unknown. After many more years, after several ages, republics were created in India first. And there were 10 republics. They were called Ganarajyas. And Gautama Buddha was born in one such republic. His father was the sort of governor of that, elected governor of that republic. But historians, they're skilled in telling lies. So they made his father a king and he was a prince. That's how his life story was written. But anyway, so happiness is subjective, it is not objective. And so I told you the story of Yudhishthira and the celestial being called Yaksha. Who is happy? Who does not have debts, he is happy. And who does not live in a foreign country. In those days, people from one kingdom, if they would go to another kingdom, and there are so many kingdoms all over the world, they would not be happy. They would not be considered favorite subjects of the kingdom where they have gone. But it is not true anymore. And now, how to be happy? What are the techniques? The first technique is rational thinking. Not all people think rationally, and that's why they become unhappy. Once one lady came to me here, to our church, and said to me, Swami, I'm not going to come to this church anymore. I said, why not? What happened? She said, when I come here, people don't greet me. That's why I don't want to come here. I am not welcome. Then I said, well, do you greet others? They said, why should I greet others first? They should greet me first. I said, they also may think the way you are thinking. So your thinking is not very rational. Greet them. But that lady did not like my comments. And I left this church. And there are some people, you see, who don't know how to think rationally. They create a prison for themselves. Oh, that person does not seem to like me. It's mostly imagination. And I won't have anything to do with that person. Withdrawing from that person. In this manner, such people go on withdrawing from one person and another, and enter into a solitary prison. Nobody is good. This thinking is irrational. Once one lady came to me and said, my husband doesn't love me anymore. I asked her, did your husband tell you that? She said, no, I could feel it. I said, maybe he loves you. Why don't you go and behave with him lovingly? Then you will get to know it. But that lady then left. I didn't see that lady anymore. So people, due to their irrational thinking, create unhappiness for them. And there is another technique. That means we should take the help of positive comparison to feel happy. There was a lady, her name was Helen Keller. She was an American. When she was 19 months old, she had some disease, as a result of which she lost her eyesight and she also became deaf. She became blind and deaf. And Helen Keller was born in 1880 and she passed away in 1968. She lived a long life. And she became very famous. Why? Because in spite of her physical handicaps, she was able to study with the help of Braille method and all. And she was the first person like her to get a BA degree in America. And was she unhappy because she had lost her eyesight and she could not hear anything? No, she was happy. She said there is a technique with the help of which it is called, she would call it positive comparison. You can feel happy. There are so many other people who are in a much worse situation than where you are now. Compare your situation with theirs, and then you took that comparison, you will feel luckier and happier than them. There was another person, gentleman, lived in a certain neighborhood, but he was miserable. He had 2 or 3 sons. The sons were not that brilliant. He would compare his condition with other families where the sons of people were so much more brilliant, and then he'd compare his condition with other neighbors who had larger homes and he would feel miserable. Then one day he had to go to the hospital to see a patient. There he saw a certain word which is meant for those who had physical disabilities due to participation in sports. They're all young people. And yet some of them could not even move. Some of them could not see. So by seeing their condition, and they were all young, he suddenly felt luckier and happier. All these young people, they have to be like this throughout their lives. And I am luckier, I am happier. And that's how his happiness was gone. And he volunteered to give some service to that hospital. So, happiness, how to reduce misery, how to become happy. The technique is to have positive comparison. And also another technique is reducing craving for external possessions. People have great craving for external possessions. This craving can make them unhappy. There is a story. a king in those days, there were so many kings. A king was talking to his prime minister, and he said to that prime minister, "Am I not the happiest person on earth?" Then the prime minister looked out, because there was large windows in that room, and there was a holy man seated under a tree, wearing only loincloths. And the prime minister said to the king, "O king, you are not the happiest. That holy man who is seated under the tree, wearing loincloths, he is the happiest." The king said, "How could it be? He doesn't have anything other than a pair of loincloths. He should feel miserable." Then the prime minister said to the king, "O king, he is the happiest because he does not have any want. You still have want. As long as you have want, you cannot be happy always." The same teaching Sri Sarada Devi, the divine incarnation, gave to the devotees. He said, those who do not have sense of want, they are happy. And so the reducing craving for external possessions, that is one of the techniques to be happy. And also cutting down expectations from others. We expect so many things from others and those expectations may not be fulfilled, and then we become unhappy. But the method is to cut down expectation from others, and then you will be happy. And another well-known technique is you have to learn to make self-sacrifice for others. Then you will be happy. I said, what? Making self-sacrifice, I will be happy? So, yes, it is true. In India, the elderly people are considered wiser. Younger people may be intelligent, but they don't have wisdom. Wisdom comes from experience. So that's why the elderly people are considered very wise in India, according to our tradition. They say that if you want to hear some words of wisdom, then go to an elderly person. So one young man came to such an elderly person and said, my parents are thinking that I should marry. And you are a happy person, you are wise. Please tell me, how can I be happy after marriage? Then that elderly person said, well, I will have to tell you a story. A newly married couple, they were living in a big island like Hawaiian island. And it was summer season and it was very hot. They thought that they would go out for a drive to a sea beach and rest there for a while. But they were young and their car did not have air conditioning. So they drove for a while and the heat was becoming more and more unbearable. And eventually they started looking for a sea beach where they could stop and lie down on the sea beach, because the sea breeze would be coming and they will feel better. And then after driving for many miles, they found a beach which was empty only. So they thought this is the ideal beach. They can lie down there and rest. They parked the car, brought out a blanket, placed it on the beach, and both of them were tired. They sat on that blanket. They wanted to rest. Simultaneously, the same thought came to each other's mind. The wife thought, wouldn't it be nice had it been possible for me to lie on put my head on my husband's lap and rest here? And the husband thought, wouldn't it be nice if I could put my head on my wife's lap and lie down and rest here? So that elderly gentleman asked that young man, in such a situation, can both of them be happy? No. One of them has to make self-sacrifice for the other, and then they will be, and one of them will be happy. That elderly person said. And you should also remember one thing as you are going to marry. Who is a good husband? A good husband is he who willingly and lovingly makes self-sacrifice for his wife, not grudgingly. And the same is true for a good wife. A good wife is she who willingly and lovingly makes self-sacrifice for her husband. Same is true for a good parent or good friend. So you should learn to make self-sacrifice, young man. That's what that elderly person said. And another technique is given by Gautama Buddha, who is considered a divine incarnation. He used to say, if you want to be happy, then you have to learn to make your mind calm and tranquil. Every person has three tendencies: rajas, sattva, and tama. And they are like three siblings wrestling with each other in a friendly way. And then one sometimes goes to the top, the other two are underneath, and that's what happens. Sometimes sattva goes to the top, and that sattva that gives what tendencies? It makes a mind tranquil, serene, meditative, and all that. So Gautama Buddha said he was born in that religion, which is Hinduism. He was nothing other than a Hindu. But anyway, he taught his followers that you have to develop a state of preponderance of sattva-guna in your mind, and then your mind will be tranquil. And with the tranquil mind, you will be able to experience that state which is peace, shanti. Okay. I don't have too much time, so I have to cut my talk short a little. And another technique is you have to learn to take the right kind of food to be happy. Food has great influence on the mind. For example, alcohol. Those who drink alcohol, they should know that alcohol is not an intoxicant, it is a depressant. After coming to this country, I have to learn how to drive. Then in the final, to get the license for driving, when I went, I had to fill up a questionnaire. There the question was, is alcohol a depressant or an intoxicant? There were several questions. I could answer all other questions correctly, but this question I could not answer correctly. I thought that alcohol must be an intoxicant because I never drank alcohol, and I saw some people who drank alcohol behaving like they're intoxicated. But the answer was given, the questions came, and I gave the answer, it is an intoxicant. That answer was wrong, but in spite of that I could get my license. Alcohol is a depressant. Therefore, if you go to a hospital in this country, they want to know whether you drink alcohol or not. So, and taking other drugs which harm the mind and the body, that is not good. So you have to learn to take the right kind of food. But there is a condition which is beyond happiness and unhappiness. This world is considered a world of the pair of opposites by Hindu philosophers. If there is happiness, there should be unhappiness also. If there is light, there should be darkness also. They always come in pairs. But there is a state which is beyond these pairs. If you are happy, there is every possibility that there may be unhappiness also. But you have to learn to go beyond both. And is it possible to do that? Yes. Hinduism says, yes, through your spiritual practice, it is possible. You can go beyond both. And peace is another name of divinity. Peace is another name of divinity. Divinity is beyond the pairs of opposites. Maybe I'll talk about that. This Tuesday I have to give a short talk. I'll talk about peace. Thank you all so much for coming to hear this talk.